Greetings, I am back again. Grab yourself a drink, beverage of your choice. Part 2 to the manager story, Tommy Miller and Peter Coleman. Well, I'm going to go back over that because I wasn't happy with what on part 1, because there's a few kind of like stories in there which I think should be told. And one of them was my first sort of like speaking to Peter Coleman. He told me I should lie about how much I'm getting. I says, why? I says, well, people won't believe if you tell them how much you're getting. I says, so I should tell them I'm getting more when I'm not. I says, and you're driving around in a Rolls Royce and I'm on a push bike and them not think I've wasted my money. I said, no, I said, I'll tell people exactly what I got. And for my first two fights, I got 150 quid and they took off 25% off me, which I told you before. In my third fight, I boxed a kid called Glass Campbell and it was 8-2s, and the referee who refed it was a guy called Larry O'Connell. I'm sure that's him. And I met him before I'd even started boxing. I just got my licence and I met him in Bradford at one of the shows, and Peter introduced me and he told me, just looked at me and says, get your hair cut. And I just says, why? He says, you'll never fight in a ring that I'm reffing him with hair like that. I said, how do you know what my hair's going to be like? I said, if it's dangerous when I get in the ring, then stop it, but until then, shut the fuck up. Now I've got him as the ref. And at the end of the fight, I thought I won it. At the end of the fight, he just smiled at me, lifted the other kid's hand, lifted Glass Campbell's hand, and then just said to me, you won that. And I went, fuck off. Again, got out of the ring. So the board, you know what I mean, if your face don't fit, they don't like you. And if it wasn't Larry O'Connell, I'm sorry, but the referee who it was, you know who you are. And when I turned pro with my ideas. My first 3 years was an apprenticeship, because the amateur game and the pro game is completely different and you got to learn. And I didn't care whether I won or lost. I took fights at short notice, I took fights I shouldn't have took. And one of the fights I had was in Leeds. The only other fight I had in Leeds, and it was at Leeds, it was at the Irish Centre, and they were against the former Irish champion John Joe Green. Now this guy was one rough fighter, man. You know, he did all the dirty tricks, everything, but I learned so much about the pro game. Stopped him in the 7th round, but it was a basic wake-up call to what was going on. And one of the shows I boxed Johnny Nelson. And when I got to the venue, I don't even know who I'm boxing. And Peter told me to get on the scales. So I'm starting to get on the scales, starting to get undressed. And he tells me, no, it's all right, leave your clothes on, jump on your scale, just take your trainers off. So I took my trainers off, I had money in my pocket, keys and things. And I think I weighed about 12-13 or something, fully clothed. Then Johnny Nelson got on, stripped off completely, and weighed 13 something. And we took the fight, and I lost by half a point. But I learned so much in that fight, man. Another one, don't let people get into your head. Because in round 7 he started talking to me, telling me how tired I was and how he's going to fuck me up now because I'm tired. And I just said to him, I'll show you how tired I am. And I walked straight onto a punch, man. He broke my nose and put me on the floor. And I'm thinking to myself when I'm on the floor, you idiot. You know what I mean? That's all I thought, you idiot, get up. I got up and we boxed out, and the ref gave it to him by half a point. So a valuable lesson learned there. And then the next one was against Carl Thompson. You know, that was kind of like fighters who were new, I'd had a few fights in between then. But fighters who went on to do something, you know, this was my learning curve. And I fought Carl Thompson, he was unbeaten in 8 fights. And, oh man, he hit me in the first round, and I've gone down. And I got this voice in my head that said, it's going to get harder than this, but you're going to win. And I got back up. And I seen his feet was all wrong, and I threw my jab, and I put him down. And in my head now, I've evened the round up. And then I get hit again. Boom. Wow. Lights come on. I'm knackered, man. I hear ding ding. I go back to the corner, I sit on the stool, and I go, fucking hell, Peter, that were a long first round. He went, shut up, you silly cunt, you're coming out for the 6th. I went, am I winning? He went, no. Oh. And I thought, I've got to get on and box here. And I stopped him in that round. But when I talk about trainers, I boxed a guy called, I think it was John Foreman. There was 2 kids that stick in my memory. One was a guy who broke his jaw. I hit him and I broke his jaw, and I heard it click, and then was hung over in the corner. And I stepped back so the referee could stop the fight. And the referee told me to box on. So I just stepped away from the corner, and when the referee seen the state he was in, he grabbed him and took him back to his corner. And when I got back to mine, Peter went, why the fuck didn't you hit him again? And when he were finished, he said, he'd have done it to you. I says, well, I'm not him. You know what I mean? I want to win, but I don't want to hurt nobody. So that's the kind of person he wants. He likes to see people being hurt, a bit of a sadist, a bit of a masochist. Sadist, I don't know which is the difference, but people who like watching people in pain or people suffering. I'm not one of them type of people. And another one, I got to the show and we were late, and I got on the scales. As soon as I got on the scales, the doctor gave me a medical, and I got my hand bandaged up. I was gloved up and I was in the ring within about half an hour. My hands weren't done right, and I smashed both my hands up in that fight. Absolutely battered them. I was saying about in the first part about the tendons run down. And it was that fight. And Peter knew about that. I went to the hospital and I was on physio and paraffin wax. My hands were knacked, man. But it still put me out again because somebody was paying. I don't know how much they were paying, but it was Ben and Ambrose Mendy was putting on shows. And what Peter told me is that Ben wanted me on his show. I boxed the Royal Albert Hall, I think it was against a guy called Abel Stanley. And I think that lasted the first round. And then I boxed Blaine Lonsden. And with Blaine Lonsden, I never sparred, I never did pads, I never did bag or out. And Peter knew this, but he didn't give a shit. He just didn't care. And I kind of knew that. And it was a good kind of like setting for me, because I knew then that my managers, my promoters wanted me beat. Don't know why. Well, that was fine by me, because then it made me train that a little bit harder. You know what I mean? And give them a kick in the teeth. And then I boxed Brian Schumacher, which I told you about. But that Brian Schumacher fight for me was basically, it was a statement, because Brian was the captain of the England squad and I walked out on the England squad. Like I said, I'll talk about my amateur career in a bit, another time. And I just wanted to put on a performance, and I stopped him in 3 rounds. And I remember I hadn't even been training, because like I said, they wanted me beat. But I knew, as soon as his name was mentioned, I knew I was going to beat him, because I had to show the ABA, the amateurs, what they'd missed, basically. And like I say, he was the captain, and 3 rounds had destroyed him. But then Peter decided to take an extra 10%, which wasn't agreed on. So a man who gives me his word and then goes and breaks it, why would I sign a contract with you when you just break them? So I wasn't interested, and like I said about the ophthalmic consultant and grassing up to the board, that's fine. And then with Barry Earns, there was a couple of stories with Barry Earns, and one of them I gotta tell about Frank Bruno coming into the gym one Saturday morning. There was about 3 people in the gym, me and a young lad called Bernard McCumsky from Ireland and somebody else. And Frank comes in, he looks round, and I'm on the bag. And Bernard drops what he's doing, runs into the changing room, comes out with a piece of paper and pen, and runs over to Frank and asks him to sign something. And all I can see is Frank just lift his hand up like that and walk out. I'm thinking, what a cunt. And Bernard had moved us by the door, and about 5 minutes later, in walks Frank with t-shirts, posters, hats, everything. He sits down with him and he starts writing autographs with him for a good 5-10 minutes, man. And then he leaves. And I just thought, Bernard's face, man, it was a picture, he were on cloud 9. And I just thought, a man's just giving 15 minutes of his time. And I always made people, you know what I mean? And I really respected that, because it's not needed, and he did. A very humble guy. And back in the day, we used to call him an Uncle Tom. But after what I've seen, he isn't, he's just a nice guy. And I won't let none of my mates talk bad about him. So that was that one. And then another one I was training, and Barry Earns says to me about he could make me a millionaire if I cut my hair. So I said, make me a millionaire with me hair if you're a good promoter. But was he being racist, or was he just telling me how this is how this society works? Because being a black's a problem, but being a Rasta man is that's a big no-no. You know what I mean? Especially in this society. You know, and I'm glad. So with that one, and then like I was telling you, I was talking to Barry, and this is another thing that comes to mind after the fight. And his wife's there, and all she can do, she's just staring at me. And just before I leave, she says to me, I think you should cut your hair. And I went, why? It's had you fascinated for the last 10 minutes. She couldn't take her eyes off it. But is that a reason why I didn't go further? Because I won't conform? Probably. But I'm not going to kiss anybody's ass. That's why I boxed. You know what I mean? It's in my hands. Yeah, they can pull all the strokes, but the time I'm in the ring, it's up to me. You know, I've got 36 minutes when I get to that level where I'm at. And I'm going to take out of the rounds. And like I was saying, in the first 3 years, I had 15 fights, and I fought the likes of Glass Campbell, Johnny Nelson, Carl Thompson, and Brian Schumacher. And out of my 15 fights, I stopped 12 of them. And like, that's what I was kind of like known for, as a puncher, not a boxer, just a puncher he can bang. And I think a lot of people came unstuck with that, just taking me that I could bang. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Next one's going to be the Eastwood one. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the other side. And like I say, if you can't be yourself, just be brilliant. Bye.